The Weight of Justice, Chapter 1. A mother's desperation. The fluorescent lights of Mercy General Hospital flickered overhead, casting an eerie glow over the crowded emergency room. The air smelled of antiseptic and desperation, punctuated by the occasional cry of a sick child or the murmured prayers of a worried family member. Angela Carter gripped her daughter's tiny, feverish hand as she approached the reception desk. 7-year-old Maya had been battling a high fever for 2 days, and her breathing had worsened overnight. Angela had tried everything: home remedies, over-the-counter medicine, but nothing worked. Now, with Maya's skin burning hot, and her small chest rising and falling in quick, shallow breaths, Angela knew she had no choice but to bring her to the emergency room. The receptionist, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes, barely looked up. Name Angela Carter. My daughter, Maya. She's insurance. Angela pulled out her card, hands shaking. Please, she needs help. The receptionist sighed, punching the information into her computer. Take a seat. A doctor will see you when they can. Angela clenched her jaw. She had worked as a nurse for years before going back to school to get her medical degree. She knew the system knew how hospitals prioritized cases. And she knew that a child with respiratory distress should not be sitting in a waiting room for hours. But she also knew something else. She knew the reputation of Dr. Richard Caldwell. Chapter 2. The racist gatekeeper. Dr. Caldwell was one of the senior physicians at Mercy General, a man with decades of experience, but a heart as cold as the stethoscope around his neck. He was known for his subtle but effective discrimination. Black patients waited longer, their pain dismissed, their symptoms downplayed. Those who complained found themselves labeled as problematic, their medical records reflecting notes that would make future doctors hesitant to take them seriously. Angela had heard the whispers. She had seen the effects, but she had never faced him directly until tonight. After an agonizing 45 minutes, a nurse finally called Maya's name. Angela scooped her daughter into her arms and followed the nurse down the sterile hallway, past curtained-off beds and the hum of medical machines. And then she saw him. Dr. Caldwell stood at the end of the hallway, flipping through a chart with an expression of mild disinterest. He was a tall, gaunt man with silver hair and piercing blue eyes that held no warmth. He barely glanced at Maya before sighing. What seems to be the problem? Angela swallowed her anger. My daughter has had a high fever for 2 days. She's wheezing. She needs immediate treatment. Dr. Caldwell hummed, flipping through the chart the nurse had handed him. Probably just a viral infection. Give her fluids and let it run its course. Angela's nostrils flared. She needs a full examination. She's struggling to breathe. Dr. Caldwell finally looked up, his eyes narrowing. Mrs. Carter, I've been practicing medicine for over 30 years. I know when a case is serious. If we admitted every child with a little fever, we'd have no beds left for real emergencies. Angela felt her pulse hammer in her ears. You're refusing to examine her? She asked, voice dangerously low. Dr. Caldwell sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. I'm saying you're overreacting. This kind of hysteria is common among— He hesitated just a second too long. Angela knew exactly what he was about to say. Among Black mothers. Chapter 3. The credentials that shook him. Angela inhaled sharply, then reached into her purse. With slow, deliberate movements, she pulled out her leather-bound medical credentials and flipped them open. The moment Dr. Caldwell's eyes landed on the embossed seal, his face drained of color. Angela Carter, M.D. Johns Hopkins University, School of Medicine. Board-certified pediatric specialist. Dr. Caldwell's mouth opened, then closed, resembling a fish gasping for air. Angela took a step closer, her voice unwavering. I am Dr. Angela Carter. I graduated top of my class from Johns Hopkins. I completed my residency at Boston Children's Hospital. I have treated thousands of children with respiratory distress, and I am telling you right now that my daughter needs immediate medical attention. The color returned to Dr. Caldwell's face, but this time it was a deep, humiliated red. He licked his lips, scrambling for composure. He cleared his throat. I wasn't aware you were a physician. Angela's eyes burned with fury. And I shouldn't have to be for you to take my daughter's condition seriously. The silence that followed was deafening. The nurses, the nearby staff, everyone had seen. Heard. Dr. Caldwell turned stiffly toward the nurse beside him. Prepare a room. Get an X-ray. Start her on oxygen. Angela didn't move. You will also add a full respiratory panel. And you will document in her chart that you initially dismissed her condition due to an incorrect assumption. Dr. Caldwell swallowed hard. Of course, Dr. Carter. Chapter 4. Justice Comes Due. Maya was admitted within minutes. The chest X-ray revealed early-stage pneumonia, and within hours, she was receiving the care she needed. Angela sat by her bedside, stroking her daughter's curls, but her mind was elsewhere. She had exposed Dr. Caldwell, but how many other mothers had he dismissed? How many had lost their children because they didn't have the credentials to force his hand? Angela wasn't just a doctor. She was a fighter, and she wasn't going to let this slide. Chapter 5. The Reckoning. The next morning, she made a call. B. Why the end of the week? The hospital board had launched an investigation into Dr. Caldwell's history of patient dismissals. Testimonies poured in Black and Latino mothers who had been ignored, fathers who had begged for treatment only to be turned away. When the news broke, it wasn't just a scandal. It was a reckoning. Dr. Caldwell was forced to resign in disgrace. His license was reviewed by the medical board, and Mercy General implemented new policies, ensuring that no patient, regardless of race, would ever be dismissed again. Angela didn't celebrate. She simply went home, kissed Maya's forehead, and whispered, "You're safe now, baby," because she had won a battle. But the war for justice would never be over, and she was ready to keep fighting.